Welcome to this week's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about Javier Milei's economy in Argentina. Have you ever wondered what happens when a country presses the reset button on its economy? Argentina may be one of the clearest examples in recent history. When Javier Milei assumed the presidency in December of 2023, Argentina was facing one of the most severe economic crises in decades. Inflation exceeded 211%, poverty affected more than 31% of the population, and the government had a fiscal deficit of about 5.4% of GDP, and the economy was stagnating. Milei promised something different. He promised shock therapy, spending cuts, deregulation, smaller government, free market reforms. More than 2 years later, the results are mixed. In the interest of remaining impartial, it should be noted that Javier Milei has been president for just over 2 years, and the effects of economic policies often take longer to materialize. I am Dr. Rene Padilla, and welcome to Policy and Development in the Americas, where we help you better understand public policy, economics, and development across the Americas. If you like this type of content, like, share the episode, and subscribe to the channel. This channel focuses on data, factual information, and non-partisan analysis. Argentina has experienced recurring economic crises for decades. Since 2001, they've had a debt default, currency crisis, high inflation, and economic stagnation. But who's Javier Milei? Javier Milei is an economist and former television commentator. Before becoming president, he worked as an economic consultant, a university professor, and economic commentator. He won the presidency in November of 2023 with 55.7% of the vote. His economic philosophy is libertarian and based on free market economics. In simple terms, this means reducing the role of government in the economy and allowing markets to determine prices, wages, and investments. Key principles include fiscal austerity, reduction of public spending, deregulation, reduction of subsidies, trade liberalization, export-driven growth, labor market flexibility. This approach assumes short-term pain and long-term stability. To better understand the changes, let's compare Argentina before and after the reforms. In looking at the table, we can see that inflation in 2023 was 211%, in 26, 35 to 40%. Poverty in 23 was 41.7%, in 26 between 40 and 45%. GDP growth was negative at 1.6%. In 26, it was actually positive at 3 to 5%. So in other words, the economy is growing. The fiscal balance was running a deficit in 23 of 5.4%, and now it's about balanced. And unemployment in 23 was 6%, and in 26, 7%. Official data shows improvements in inflation, fiscal balance, economic growth. However, many Argentinians do not feel these improvements. There is a disconnect between official data and everyday experience. Many Argentinians report reduced purchasing power, job insecurity, and higher costs. Economic growth has been concentrated in certain sectors such as oil, mining, financial services, while the construction industry and retail have shown weakness. Notably, the sectors showing growth create fewer jobs compared to the weaker sectors, which typically generate significantly more employment. Data from February 2026 show weakness. In looking at the table here for industry and construction weakness, we can see, first of all, the information is as of February of 2026, and we can see that industrial production is down by 8.7%. Machinery production is down by 29.4%. Automotive is down by 24.6%. Textiles are also down by 18.2%, and construction by just under 1% down as of February of 2026. In Argentina, the official work week is 48 hours. However, many offices operate between 40 and 44 hours. Unemployment is around 7.5%. However, there's less stability, more informal employment, and fewer benefits. More than 22,000 businesses have closed. Income increased between 20 and 30%. However, the annual inflation ranges between 35 and 40%. This means inflation absorbed all of the income gains. Electricity increased 100 to 300%. Gas increased more than 200%, and transportation increased 150%. These are major consumption areas for the average Argentine. We can see in the job quality and cost pressures table that unemployment was at 7.5% as of February 2026. Wage increase 20 to 30%, inflation 35 to 40%, electricity up 100 to 300%, gas 200%, transportation 150%, and businesses closed 22,000. Higher income individuals can afford cars, travels, imports. Lower income individuals experience reduced food consumption and often need more than one job to make ends meet. Official poverty is declined. However, there is financial stress, rising debt, and uneven recovery. Surveys conducted in March and April of 2026 show a 50 to 62% negative attitude towards Milei's economic reforms. There was also a cryptocurrency controversy in February 2025 that did not help his image. Milei promoted the cryptocurrency called Libra. It rose rapidly, reaching more than $4 billion in value because of his endorsement, and then it quickly collapsed, creating large losses for many investors. This led to allegations of corruption and investigations. In April of 2026, President Javier Milei publicly acknowledged that recent months have been difficult for many Argentinians and stated that although the economy shows signs of improvement, the benefits are not reaching everybody at the same pace. He also noted that economic adjustment processes typically generate short-term costs and asked for patience, assuring that the economic direction remains the correct one. However, his acknowledgement also reflects growing social dissatisfaction shown in the surveys previously mentioned and the impact that reforms have had on specific sectors of the economy. Milei himself acknowledged that results are not progressing at the same pace for everyone, and that while some sectors are beginning to recover, Others continue to face pressure from rising costs, job losses, and reduced purchasing power. In conclusion, Argentina is in the middle of one of the most profound economic transformations in its recent history. On one hand, some macroeconomic indicators show signs of stabilization. Inflation has declined significantly from extreme levels in 2023. The fiscal deficit has been reduced. Some sectors of the economy have begun to grow. However, these improvements have not translated evenly into the daily lives of Argentinians. Economic growth has been concentrated in sectors such as mining, energy, and financial services. These sectors generate relatively fewer jobs. At the same time, the sectors most negatively impacted are the sectors in the construction industry and retail, and those are the ones that create many jobs. So it is important to remember that it is not about believing what we want to believe. It is about knowing what we need to know. See you next week.